Even if you don't know anything about Hindu mythology or Hinduism at all, I'm sure you can go forward and read Adiyogi and you will get a fresher perspective of what yoga is and how Adiyogi, that is Lord Shiva, has influenced and spread that as a culture across different parts inside India and the world. Of the whole book, the center of 100 to 150 pages is the best part. We see him entirely from a yogi's point of view alone, and his story is narrated to us in a yogic way. I was able to see the way in which he was showing the story to me in the way that he wanted me to understand it, and it was also done in a very lucid and clear way. Hello all, I'm Sai and you're watching The Book Dragon. In today's video, I'm bringing to you my review of Adiyogi, The Source of Yoga by Sadhguru and Arundati Subramaniam. I have already read two of Sadhguru's books before in this channel, and I've reviewed one of them, which is Death and Inside Story. I read that book in 2021 and the review for that one is already available in the channel. I'll try to link the video down in the description or also up in the iCard so that you can go and check it out if you're interested. The next book which I read by the author is Inner Engineering. I don't have a review of that one in the channel because I listened to it as an audiobook. I have the physical copy with me right now and I'm planning to reread it this year and make a video for that one also separately. So without any further ado, let's get into the review of Adiyogi right away. So in Adiyogi, The Source of Yoga, Sadhguru as well as Arundati Subramaniam have shared the book in a way that the beginning of the book is written by Arundati Subramaniam as well as the ending 50 to 70 pages of the book is written by her. In between, the 100 to 150 pages of the book is written by Sadhguru himself. And I should say, of the whole book, the center of 100 to 150 pages is the best part because it is completely narrated by Sadhguru and his knowledge is clearly seen on paper. Here we basically see the story of Lord Shiva, but not from a spiritual or religious point of view. We see him entirely from a yogi's point of view alone, and his story is narrated to us in a yogic way, that is how he created yoga and how he distributed it to various parts of the countries through his followers. It was not a completely intentional thing that he wanted to do, but he understood that it needs to be spread to the people so that they can also get the bliss that he was in right then, and the way in which Sadhguru narrates that story of Shiva to us is really beautiful. Now, if you are a person who knows a lot of stories that were narrated to you by your grandparents or parents from the past when it comes to Shiva inside the Hindu culture, I'm sure that none of the stories that Sadhguru narrates in here will be new to you because he talks about only stories which most of the Indian population who belong to the Hindu religion know a lot about, but he does not step into Hinduism at all when it comes to narrating these stories. He just includes the different gods or characters from mythology into his narration and he explains the story from a completely yogic point of view. Okay? Each and every story of Shiva is narrated to us here by Sadhguru, but it does not have the influence of religion at all. Each and every act of Lord Shiva as well as the consequences of it are properly explained to us from a yogic standpoint. For example, when he talks about some things that Shiva does, he does not say anything about the character of Shiva or anything that has to do with how it influenced Hinduism as a whole. He just shows us why he did some things in a certain way so that he can attain that bliss by himself without depending on any other outer source. This is a book which clearly shows to us that Shiva is a great example of trying to understand oneself, realize oneself and go within oneself in order to get that pure bliss that each and every one of us want to experience. The main thing which I loved about this book is the way in which Sadhguru did not go off track and delve into religion or spiritualism in any way, and he was completely on the track of yoga alone. While he started each and every story of Shiva that he was narrating, I got this feeling that I know the story already. Why is he repeating the same thing again and again even though so many other people know it, and put this inside this book? It started in a way for each and every story, but the way in which he took it forward and explained it from the point of view of a yogi was really brilliant. I was able to see the way in which he was showing the story to me in the way that he wanted me to understand it, and it was also done in a very lucid and clear way. It is not like you need to have a lot of knowledge or know so many other things in advance in order to read this book and understand what the author is trying to say to you. It's not at all like that. You can just go in with a blank mind. Even if you don't know anything about Hindu mythology or Hinduism at all, I'm sure you can go forward and read Adiyogi and you will get a fresher perspective of what yoga is and how Adiyogi, that is Lord Shiva, has influenced and spread that as a culture across different parts inside India and the world. The author also slightly delves into the history of the Saptarishis, that is the 7 sages who were the direct followers or students of Adiyogi, and how they learnt the yogic art from him and spread it across different parts inside the country. For example, he goes on and talks briefly about Agastya, who's the sage that spread yoga in the southern part of India as a single sage compared to all the other 6 sages. He's not discriminating between the sages in any way at all. He just took him as an example and showed it to us properly. And I think he did it in such a way because he's also from the southern part of India, and it could have been even more easier for him to articulate his feelings with. Apart from just the Saptarishis and how they learned the art of yoga from Adiyogi and spread it across different parts of the country, he also talks about the influence of yoga from the Saptarishis on our culture. There are small trinkets like this which are narrated by the author here and there, so that it is also very relatable for us even in this current world. Now, one thing which slightly disappointed me was that I thought he would talk about the consecration of the Adiyogi statue in Coimbatore, which is actually on the cover of the book. I'm sure that if I tell the name Adiyogi itself, the one thing which comes into our mind is the statue of Adiyogi in Coimbatore, because it's so huge and it is kind of like a symbol for the Isha Yoga organization as a whole. He did a good thing not talking about it because he did not have any space to push the agenda of the organization through this book. The bad thing was that I wanted to learn a lot more about this one and I did not get a chance to do that. I have seen him talk a lot about the Dhyana Linga, which is another thing that was consecrated by him in the Isha Yoga organization in Coimbatore, in his previous 2 books which I read, that are Death and Inside Story and Inner Engineering. But in this one he did not talk much about the Dhyana Linga or the Adiyogi statue, which was quite a bit disappointing for me. It is a good thing as well as a bad thing, but since I had expectations to learn a lot more about it from my experience about hearing about the Dhyana Linga from the previous 2 books, I wanted that from this one, which I did not deliver. So if you are expecting to get the same like me from this book, please just be pre-warned that it will not be there for you. So if you are expecting that from this book, you will not get it. Now, talking about the other author, Arundati Subramaniam, she's more like an interviewer for Sadhguru in this book compared to being a co-author of the book, if you ask me, because she talks a lot about Sadhguru and she writes about her conversations with him and the knowledge that she has acquired from him over the years. She also talks about her trip to Kailash with Sadhguru in the last chunk of the book, which was very mesmerizing for me to read because she talks about it in such a transparent and raw way without sugarcoating anything at all. After reading that, I also have this dream that I want to go to Mount Kailash and just see the mountain as a whole and just be there for a few minutes and then get back. She talks about how troublesome it is to trek that mountain and go to that place in order to experience it, but the way in which she has written that experience just makes me think that all that trouble would be completely worth it while reaching that place and just being there. So to wrap it up, I should say that my experience of reading Adiyogi, The Source of Yoga by Sadhguru and Arundati Subramaniam was very satisfying for me because Sadhguru did not divulge from the topic of explaining the Adiyogi concept in terms of yoga by straying into religion or spiritualism in any way at all, and I just completely enjoyed the read and got a lot of knowledge out of it. If you're thinking of reading the book, just go forward and try it. I'm sure that you'll be able to understand the story of Lord Shiva from a very different facet and point of view, which is very unique and fresh on its own. And I do hope that this video was useful for you. If you did find it useful and interesting, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and also share it to your friends. And if you want to get more content from me, do subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day.